This is Real Women, celebrating women in independent film. We are also celebrating the fact that filmmakers who work together and work on projects that they care about most passionately, and that is the independent film market. I'm your host, Brenda Daly. I am a actor, writer, director, and producer. And today we're going to be talking to David Sumner. David is a director, writer, and a producer. He's made his first feature film. It's a horror. It's getting ready to be seen by a lot of people. And I wanted to introduce you to David. Hey, David, how's it going?
It's going just fine. Thank you, Brenda.
So, David, because I see everything in your background, I want you to tell everybody where you are right now.
I'm in Kansas, and I'm
And you
sorry.
were, you're in the military, right?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, thank you for your service. I think it's really important for people to understand that as a filmmaker, you can have any kind of other job or occupation.
Mhm.
As long as you're creative, you find the time to get the things done that you want to get done, right?
Absolutely.
So, David, I wanted you to tell everybody what brought you to filmmaking and the passion for filmmaking.
So when I was a young kid, I loved movies. I was always fascinated by the craftsmanship that went into them, and always wanted to make movies as a kid. But then I became an adult, and I was like, okay, well, I should probably go into something more practical, though. So I went to college, worked various jobs, decided to come into the military, did that for 5 years, got out, went to college again, working on my bachelor's in political science. And then I was like, you know what? Since I've got the GI Bill, might as well give filmmaking a try. So I went to the New York Film Academy in Manhattan, and then did a couple of short films, graduated from there, but basically couldn't really get a job in the local industry up in New York. Very competitive. So I decided to come back into the military. And then, well, now I've got a stable job, um, not really having any debt. So I thought, might as well, see if I can make the dream come true, and made my wrote a feature that could be shot on a very low budget, and then did that. And now it's publicly available, and hopefully lots of other people will see it and like it.
And the movie you're talking about is called Reset. And what was the inspiration for that movie?
Mhm. So the basic concept of the movie came when I was watching suspense thrillers of people being essentially captured by serial killers or whatnot, and always thinking, in real life, if somebody was in that situation, would they survive? And the answer was probably not. So I thought, well, I want to make something that's realistic, but I also want the protagonist to have a chance at survival. So then it occurred to me, well, what if it's a time loop type deal? Um, and I had actually come up with this idea before having seen Happy Death Day. So, I like that movie enough. This movie definitely takes it in, I think, a different direction. But the advantage of making it a time loop type thriller is that I could essentially reuse the same location, keep costs down. And yeah, and then it was just applying, thinking logically what the average person would do in that scenario.
So, what was your budget for this movie, if you don't mind saying?
No, I don't mind. I would say at most 35,000.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a pretty big budget. I mean,
Mhm,
considering people I've talked to, they've made them for $2,000, $1,000. I think it just depends on.
mhm,
I think if you're working full time, you almost end up spending more money just because you need to spend the money to get everybody where you need them to be. If you're working on not a time schedule, then sometimes you can, ask for a lot of favors.
Mhm.
So I think it's a really good budget. I think my mentor, he says, make a movie for under 50K, you know, and you will succeed.
Mhm.
So it seems like so what channels is your movie on?
Currently it's it's being distributed by Midnight Releasing,
Hmm.
and currently it's only on Vimeo. Uh,
Right.
but they said that it should be going to other channels sometime in the coming months.
Yeah, but
But
you've only given it to him how long ago? Not too long ago, right?
just a few months ago.
Yeah. It does take time. Depending on how they're distributing it. I'm not
Mhm.
really sure what their distribution plan is, but yeah, I think a couple of months. I think I was
Mhm.
told something it could take up to a year to see money coming back.
Mhm.
So I don't think that's an unreasonable amount of time. So you made this movie about kind of a time loop. Did
Mhm.
you did you feel a real connection to it, and how did you cast the movie?
I'm not sure what you mean by connection. Obviously, I wanted to make the best movie I could.
But you did the time loop because you wanted to make sure you kept it in one location. Is that was the purpose of it?
That was part of it, and also I think it makes it more realistic that
Hmm.
you have a protagonist who hasn't received any kind of training, just dropped into this terrifying situation, and basically the protagonist can fail but still learn lessons for what to do the next time.
Hmm.
And in terms of casting, I just put a casting call on backstage.com, audition the actors, and Ben and Alyssa were just the best that I could find. And there were some really good actors who auditioned, but I just, at the end of the day, I think they were the ones who came closest to what the film needed. Especially, Ben had to go from being almost like a friendly teddy bear type guy to being, this scary psycho. Um,
Uh-huh.
and Alyssa had to do a full gamut of emotions. Basically, I do think that this role was sort of written, or at least the way it is written, it is kind of like an actor's dream because you get to play every kind of emotion. You get to play,
Hmm.
from being flirtatious and, sympathetic to being, terrified to being outraged, just everything, the full gamut.
Well, I think too, when you're doing auditions, it's always about, I love to hold auditions. I don't like to just give parts away because I like to
Mhm.
see what the actor brings to the role because I think it makes it more well-rounded. Because sometimes an actor will come in that you've never even met before and they see
Mhm.
whatever you wrote as something
Mhm.
different, you know, and then you go, oh, and then it well rounds the character a little bit and makes you go, yeah, that's exactly whatever that missing piece might have been,
Mhm.
they fulfilled it.
Oh, absolutely. I That's the way I see it is the actor has a very vital role in creating the character, not just in terms of, okay, here's the character is written on the script, you know, bring this to life, but also adding more dynamic element. For example, Alyssa and Ben were very involved in terms of developing the blocking, physical actions that their characters would take, how they would move around each other. Um, Definitely. I mean, at times the way that I wrote it, they would just sort of be like the way I wrote it, they would have just been statically looking at each other in the same
Uh-huh.
spot. But then when we got on set, they were very much, okay, well, let's move it around a bit. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's make it more dynamic.
Well, I think too, when you read a script, because I am an actor, when you read a script, you kind of you read you read a little bit outside the box because you know you can't do it like the next actor is going to do it completely different. You can never do
Mhm.
it exactly as written. You have to do it where your imagination goes, and then hope that you capture the filmmaker's imagination with it. You know, because
Mhm.
the filmmaker especially if you're the writer, director, producer, you kind of see the people in your head as you're writing, you kind of see the situation, but it's a little stagnant until you audition a few people for the role, and then you go, oh, well, that one's a good actor, but it just didn't feel right. And they bring different dimensions to it. And as far as the movement's concerned, I feel like actors are, you know, they're thinking in their head, well, what would motivate me to do that? Why do I need to move here, you know, in order to make the character a little more, you know, a little bit bigger than life, a little bit, you know, because you want that to bounce off the screen a little bit, you know. So what was the hardest thing you had to do to make this movie? Because I know working and everything, that is a definite question.
Well, when it came time to shooting, that was easy enough. I could just take 2 weeks off for leave and then just get all of the shooting done in 2 weeks. I would say the hardest part, or one of the more frustrating part, was in the middle of shooting when I realized that I had made a mistake and then I had to compensate for it. That happened a few times, and I was like, "Oh, I can't believe I didn't think of this." And yeah, and then I had to rewrite and sort of come up with patches on the spot. But it's been my experience that the more thoroughly you plan things out, the easier it is to improvise when things don't go according to plan.
When I direct, I'm a complete improviser. I drove my last DP crazy because, you know, we made a shot list, but then after the first 2 days, we never used it because I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I really want this shot. Because I think when you're in the moment, I think the shot list is just to get your imagination going, and then the rest of it is, you know, I think that's the creativity part. You know, I think it's important to have that. I don't think you should do everything. Yes, a shot list is very important. It's very important to get those shots, but I always think, well, I can get the shot, but what if I made it look like this instead of what I originally thought? And that's the creativity involved. So that was the most difficult thing for you, was just you couldn't elaborate on what mistake you made?
So one big mistake I made, and I feel almost embarrassed admitting this, but
Don't be embarrassed. We all make mistakes.
so I rented the location, and so I came up with the brilliant idea to save costs. What if I just had a couple of the actors who had flown out? What if I just had them sleeping at the location?
Oh.
Yeah, that was a dumb move on my part. That definitely added more work and frustration than should have been. So that was a lesson learned on my next movie. I'm like, okay, gotta house your crew and actors separate from the location.
Yeah, they need a break a little bit. But I mean, it's a first film. That's not that big of a deal. When we did our feature, we had no running water and no electricity. So, you know, in the house, you know, and most of our scenes were night scenes. And I think that was probably my biggest mistake. But it looked beautiful. And so, you know, and of course, that's all I was thinking of. I think you get, you know, you don't think of everything on your first one. You always think about, you know, what else is going on, you know? So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you were saying that. So what is your favorite thing about this film?
My favorite thing about this film is probably, and I'm not sure if you've seen it yet, or but so there's two sections of the movie, that the first 25 minutes and then the last 20 minutes, that if you were to section these two parts of the movie off, they would almost work just fine as short films. So, I mean, you could, without risking going into spoilers, if you were to, there's a point like towards the end where if you were to just stop it and bring somebody in who hadn't seen like the previous parts of the movie and just show them the ending, they'd be like, huh, okay. And they would have almost a completely different view of the movie.
That's kind of cool.
And also with the first 25 minutes almost works as its own short film.
Yep. No, yeah, but I think that's where you want to capture the audience. You know, you got to capture them in the first 10 minutes, really. You know, especially if you're selling it or in distribution, that's a really important thing to happen when you're trying to sell a film. I know the trailer will sell the film, but I think, you know, you want your viewage to go all the way to the end so that you can, you know, when you're distributing, you can make a certain amount of money off of it. You know, so you want to make sure you get those minutes timed in. So it's important to have that exciting feature. I actually watched a show, and what they did was they took a scenario, which I thought was really interesting, and then they made a feature film out of it. It was basically 2 shorts about, you know, if the girl got pregnant or if she didn't get pregnant. And then you watched her 2 lives kind of encirculate each other. And I thought that was kind of a cool little concept. But basically, you could have broke them up into shorts. So that's kind of what you did.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that concept. That's very cool. So what's your ideas for the next film? Do you have another film in mind after this one is completely launched?
I do. It'll have a bigger scope, more characters. I deliberately wrote Reset with just a few limited characters. There's a party scene in the beginning of Reset, but most of the movie is with a limited number of actors. But this next movie, it's going to be a bit more complex. And it's gonna have a plot where this young woman has to get out of a dangerous situation. The context is going to be very different, though. Yeah, and I don't want to go too much into the plot at this time, but
so is your genre horror, or what's your favorite genre?
So my favorite genre, I don't really have a favorite genre. What I like about horror or low budget suspense thrillers is I like movies that create a strong visceral feeling in the audience. And this also works for comedies too, because when you laugh, that's a visceral experience. When you watch like an action scene, like from Mad Max or Speed or you know, some of the great action movies, that's a very visceral experience. But especially those action movies, you know, they cost like $100 million. But
some don't. They don't anymore. I think everything's gotten a lot cheaper.
I mean,
we just did an action movie here in town because I'm in Las Vegas. They just did Sympathy of the Devil with Nick Cage. And Joel Kinnaman, and I think the budget was 3.5 million. So it wasn't hundreds of millions. And they did it inside a studio that had it's almost 3D effect. And so it's, as opposed to doing on the green screen, they did all the car scenes inside the studio, and it was this one big, huge circular TV screen. So they saved money on location, and then of course stunts and all that, because they can do everything else B-roll without those stars, and then they don't have to pay them for those days. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, I think the studio is not cheap, but you know, when you're moving crew and you're moving bodies around, it's cutting down on all of that, because you don't have to have all those people out in the field. Plus it cuts down on your insurance costs, you know? So,
yeah.
But that's like the new age thing now. Like that's what everybody's been doing, because, you know, with COVID and everything, there's less bodies there's less problems, you know? So are you your DP also?
No. So my director of photography, a guy by the name of Joe Lombroso, I found him on Facebook, actually putting out the advertisement. He was fantastic. I got to give him so many props. Joe Lombroso, check him out. His work is just fantastic. And he actually agreed to do this on a much lower cost than he usually charges, because he wanted to do a feature film, and he is a big reason why the movie looks as good as it does and is as successful as it is.
Oh yeah. I think a great DP is so important because
Mhm.
they, you know, they complete the vision. They bring
Mhm.
the color and is he editing also?
No, I did the editing myself.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That I like to edit, but I let my DP edited my film because I just was like, I didn't have all the equipment that you need.
Mhm.
My computer's not fast enough. My it's just
Mhm.
not. But I think it's really important to have an excellent DP. And so did you have a large crew or a small crew?
I had a very small crew. There was Joe, there was his brother, there was another local person. Her name was Brenna Vogel. She actually played Kylie in the movie The Redhead,
Uh-huh.
but she also acted as the AC. There was a guy named Greg Byers, and he was a local guy, had no experience with filmmaking. I found him on Craigslist,
Yeah,
and I
but he
was
wanted to learn, right?
yeah, and he's like 60 years old, and he just wanted to say that he did the experience. So
Oh, well, that's cool. Was he helpful?
he was very helpful. Yep,
That's
and
good. Yeah, that's
And then
great.
there was Keith Massey, who is a producer, and
Mhm.
he was also acted as the assistant director and a bunch of other stuff on the film too.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's actually said you had a pretty big crew for an independent film.
Well, I think it was a total of 4 or 5 people, including myself.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, that's exciting. So, how many films are you? You told me you were writing some scripts earlier. How many scripts are you writing?
I'm just writing one at the time. That's one of my. That's one of the big deficiencies I have is that it takes me a long time to write anything.
Yeah, I get it. I'm the same way.
Mhm.
I think it's just because you don't know what's going to spark your creativity, and where it's all going to go. Uh,
No, I just hate actually sitting down and writing. I want to do something else. I want to jump up and down or you
yeah,
know.
no, I hear you. I find that the best time to write is in the morning because if you go to bed thinking about your film and then you get
Mhm.
up early, then if you could take 20 minutes to write that down, that will really spark you
Mhm.
because your brain is really processing that all night.
Mhm.
So then, then you get a lot more done in a lot smaller amount of time. Otherwise, you're sitting there just staring at the keyboard like, okay, what do I do?
Uh-huh.
So when do you think you might be so what's your next step as far as filmmaking? You're just waiting for your movie uh, to make some money, or are you going to start planning that out?
So basically what I'm going to do for my next movie is I'm going to write the script, put together the production packet, excuse me, uh plan it out as much as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I get this one paid off, I'm gonna start looking for money for the next one. But
Mm-hmm.
in the meantime, I can plan everything out, prepare everything so that when I do get that financing, I can just go into pre-production.
Well, and the thing is you can now say that you finished a feature because I mean, shorts are great, and I
Mhm,
love shorts, and I've done shorts, but I feel like with a feature film, you actually can prove that you've actually done a feature, and
mhm,
and not that shorts aren't wonderful, but I don't think they get you to the next level. And I want to congratulate you on your feature film because that's a big
mhm,
undertaking, and it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of puzzle
mhm.
pieces putting together. And the fact that you edited it all yourself is amazing. And I think you're doing great. you
Well,
know,
thank you. I really appreciate that. I gotta check out the movie you did.
Oh, Rogue Angel. Yeah, I don't have it in distribution yet, but I'd be happy to send you the trailer. I had to change. I bought music from Envato Elements, and then I had to change that out because I found out I
Mhm,
couldn't sell the movie with that music. So I had to hire a composer. So I feel like I'm constantly just putting more money in. But hey, it won a film festival, so a big one. So it's qualified for the Academy Awards, but it's going to cost me 7 grand if I want to apply for that, and then I'd probably
mhm.
do a movie. I hope they have an award for a movie that was made for under 10 grand because that's all I did. I don't expect to win, but I would love to. If I had that category, I might have a shot. You know, but yeah. So it's been really great, David. Is there anything you want your audience to know about you personally that we did not cover?
I'm on social media, so if they want to, they can check out the link to the film. I'm on Facebook. I've got a Twitter that I tweet maybe once a day on.
Oh, that's good.
There's my website.
What is the website? Can you tell me what your website is?
DavidSumnerFilm.com.
Okay. Okay, that's good. And then, of course, at the end of the podcast, I'm going to make sure for David, as with all my other guests, is we will put the trailer in the description. We will put in his links, and so that you'll be able to find David and find out what he's doing next. I know a lot of actors are following this, and so if they're interested in maybe his next film, you'll know that his name is out there and that he is making films. And that would be great. So it's really great talking to you, David. This is Real Women, celebrating women in independent film. Today we are celebrating a man who's working in the military that's protecting us all. And so today we're going to celebrate David Sumner. Thanks a lot, David.
Thank you very much, Brenda.
I have something for you.
Where always, and you will never be alone.
You're not listening to me.
I'm listening to you, Kylie. I just don't agree with you because what you're saying is stupid. Where am I?
You're with your friends and you got drunk and they left. My name's Edgar.
Then you.
Why won't you let me leave?
So you're not going anywhere. Why are you making me do this? I don't want to. Hey, you awake? Your phone had died and I didn't
Didn't have charge of the matchmaker.
How'd you do that? It was like you completed my sentence. Let me show you what real love feels like. Ah! I could be really good for you if you give me a chance.